Welcome to the first episode of the Kick and Cover podcast, a podcast just about special teams. Today we have Nick Bolyard with us. He's the special teams coordinator at Teays Valley High School here in Central Ohio. Coach does some great things with preparation and just developing their special teams. They had a fairly good year on special teams from what we were talking, and I think we're going to have a great conversation today on preparation, coaching our coaches, kind of what he looks for, etc. But first, Coach, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, man? How's everything going down there?
It's going good. I can't complain. I mean, we last day of in-person teaching tomorrow before we go digital, so for 3.5 weeks. So
yeah, we're hybrid, so
yeah. Well, that's a conversation for us for the spring that may or may, we don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend we do know. But for coaches who don't know about you or know about Teays Valley, do you want to kind of give a quick background on yourself and Teays Valley?
Yeah, so Teays Valley is a Division II school in Central Ohio. We play in Division II region. I think we're in 8, which is actually more with the Cincinnati schools. There's only a few true Central Ohio schools with us. We play in the Mid-State League, which is where Hamilton Township plays, Logan Elm, Amanda Clear Creek, Bloom Carroll. Some of those schools play at. So that's a little bit about Teays Valley. We are up and coming and growing. We have a new field house coming in, brand new turf field last year. So we've got the facilities being upgraded as well. So we've had a lot of success with Coach Weber, our head coach. He's done a great job. This was his 7th year as the head coach. He's done a really nice job. So Teays is great kids, great school district. So we're really excited. For me personally, I'm from Columbus City and went to a city school and didn't have an athletic bone in my body. So I was a student assistant in college, and then I was a graduate assistant at Ohio Dominican with Bill Conley. So that's kind of what Otterbein got my foot in the door, and then Ohio Dominican really opened some doors.
Well, awesome. And I don't think I've ever met Bill Conley personally, but I've heard nothing but positive things about him from coaches. I've met his son a couple times, who's I think the offense coordinator at Marysville right now, if I remember. Is that right?
I believe so, yeah. Bill is a genuine great guy. Bill is an old school football coach. He holds you accountable. He definitely makes sure no stone goes unturned. He does. I really, really, really am appreciative of the fact that I got the opportunity to work under such a guy like Bill, and I also worked under Todd Alice, who worked under Saban and Tressel. So that was a neat tie there with those guys to really teach a lot of details, and I learned a lot under those guys.
I used to coach with one of Coach Conley's former players, Tyler Hayes. We were at Westland together. He's at Thomas Worthington right now. But yeah, I mean, I've never met somebody more passionate about long snapping in my entire life.
Yeah, Tyler was awesome. He's a great long snapper. I really enjoyed having Tyler around.
So let's kind of move on from there. Let's start. Let's start with what I call swing gate and muddle huddle. I think that's probably out of we've probably talked about 3 or 4 hours between phone and on virtual at this point, and we've probably spent probably half to 2/3 of that talking swingy gate huddle stuff. So I do want to hit on an interesting fact. How do you prepare for that? Because you don't necessarily, we all kind of know we may see it one year, we may not. So how do you, do you want to explain to people how you kind of prepare for that, or kind of your method for that?
It starts in January, introducing this to the players. As soon as I started as a special teams coordinator last March, so during the COVID quarantine. And we started introducing muddle because our season opener every year, our opponent runs muddle huddle, and they have for 8 years. So we have a cut up of every muddle huddle formation that we've ever seen. So a lot of it is just this one team, but then there's some other teams trickled in that we've seen over scout tape, and we'll throw it in there. And then we'll draw up Muddle Huddle, and we rep it in July for an entire 20 minutes. Just Muddle Huddle looks. And what that does is it gives our guys some comfort. So when they go in to play Muddle Huddle, it's not an, oh my gosh, situation. There was a team we played Logan at the very end of the season this year. And Coach Eddie and that staff did a really nice job with Muddle Huddle because they converted, I want to say 2 or 3 2-point conversions out of Muddle Huddle out of different looks, whether they ran ISO or kind of had a rollout, sprint out pass. So we made sure that we had that on film from the year before, and then we saved those clips going into next year. So we have that backing of it's already a scout card. It's already there. So our guys see it in August and in July when we start doing football on the field. They already have seen Muddle Huddle. So it's not we're trying to do it on the fly.
Okay.
And I've been very blessed to coach against Tiffin University way back in, it seems like it's way back, but in 2013, Gary Goff was the head coach at Tiffin, and he ran Muddle Huddle, and there were about 3 different variations. And they had a snapper eligible, they had an unbound, they had all kinds of stuff going on. And basically, I still have those. So we drew those up and added those in. So just getting the guys used to seeing it is huge.
Okay. Now, I do have a question on top of that is, when you put your field goal PAT block out there, do you leave your defense out there? Do you substitute a couple kids? Do you substitute every kid? Everybody has a little bit different philosophy on that. What's your guys's?
Don't sub.
Okay.
The reason is they're a defense, that's a defensive play. Muddle Huddle we treat it as goal line defense. We teach it to our defense, the rules. He's eligible, he's not eligible. And it just prevents that movement to where we're already there and we're settled. And then we can maneuver guys around that are already on the field without subbing a bunch of guys.
Okay.
So we just rep it, and then that way our guys who are second string and subs, they see it during the week. So we can just trust them and leave them in, and we're very fortunate to have great kids who pay attention during practice and get mental reps and do a great job with effort. So then that way it's a good look.
Okay. Now, and then I'll kind of continue on to my next question is, and before we get into like preparation and staff assignments, how much subbing do you do on special or try to do on special teams? Like everybody's a little different. Every head coach is a little different on what they request or mandate or whatever. But like, and then what units do you try to sub the least on?
Well, I think the first thing is our head coach's philosophy is best players are on special teams. We want the best on special teams because it's a third of the game that gets a 10th of the preparation and a 10th of the appreciation. And so we want to utilize it to our advantage to put the best on there. Typically our starting punt team, we'll put our best linebackers, fullbacks, tailbacks, and our best speed as the gunners. We have a 120-pound long snapper who that's what he does, and he's awesome at it, and he's a great kid. Our personal protector this year was our backup running back, and he was kind of our special teams guru. He was our captain on every special teams. He lined up punt. He lined up field goal as a wing. He lined up kickoff as the L2. So punt, we try to put the best guys on there. For blocking, so we would have our fullbacks, we would have our so this year we ran a little bit tighter of a punt formation just to help us out a little bit with what we had. We adjust every year just depending on our personnel, but punt we want our best. Kickoff we want our best speed and attackers. They got to be able to tackle. The thing is you can't have a guy who can't tackle in the open field on kickoff, because if they get lonely in space, it's not going to be good. And the one thing is you want your outside guys to be disciplined, contained guys. And I think that's where we see some teams do looping and things like that. It has to be natural. So we try to put guys where they're naturally at. So a corner is naturally a contained guy. What's his job on run support? Outside, right? That to funnel things back in, right? So we want the corner to be on the outside. We don't want to put a safety out there. What's the safety's job? The safety is an alley player on defense. So we want to try to talk in fundamentals that they already know. So kickoff return, again, it's hard. It depends on kickoff return. We had a couple guys who that was their forte. Same with kickoff. We have a couple guys here and there on every unit where that's their forte. That's kind of what they do.
Okay.
That was a weird answer. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, I get, because like I said, every coach is a little different on that. Like, I know coaches that want to keep their two-way guys off them as much as possible. I know other coaches that, like, you will put the best kids on there no matter what. Or some coaches will be like, your best kids will go on punt, kickoff, because they're a chance for the opponent to score. Other than that, try to get some backups, some seniors or juniors in there to give your two-way guys a break. Everybody's a little different on their philosophy. I'm always curious on what other people's is. That way I can kind of go to my head coach and be like, here's proof of my idea works. Well,
and we try to mix it. So we had a couple of young men this year, like on kickoff, who were to our long side, and they did an outstanding job. And that was all they did on Friday night. They went out on kickoff and kickoff return, and that was it. And one of them, that's how he earned his starting job versus Logan, was all year we had brought up, man, that guy does a great job. Man, he does a great job. And then, he's an outside linebacker. We need an outside linebacker that week. And he was the first one to our mind. And we said, give him a chance. And he did a great job.
Yeah.
We try to mix it in. We try to put our best on there, but also to fit what we need. We don't exactly want a 300-pound lineman running down the field on kickoff. That's not a good idea. No. But we've also made sure, like, if you're the defensive end, and we had a really nice kid who was a good football player this year, who was smart, who was just a coachable kid. We put him on everything, and he was great at it. And his break was during offense. He would come out for a few plays and get a blow and then go back in.
Yeah. Oh, no, I get that, Coach. I get that 100%. And I will say this, if you're sending a 300-pound offensive or defensive lineman down the field on kickoff, he's probably a Division I athlete. It's probably what he's about to be. Yeah. He's probably what we call a freak of nature. And, if you have one of those, you probably don't need to put him on kickoff anyways. But that's a whole nother.
That's a different story.
Yeah. So let's go back to when you got promoted to special teams coordinator. What was that preparation like? Obviously, with COVID, it just messed everything up for everybody. I'm not going to sit here and say it didn't. But what was that preparation like? And then how much were you, in your conversation with your head coach, choose to keep and want to change?
I took a route that I don't suggest coaches take. I took 2 years off and then came back to coaching. And the year I came back, he asked me to be special teams coordinator. So I don't suggest that route. That was an interesting route. But I would meet with him first over, what he wanted to do. He wanted special teams to be a force. He wanted it to be a bigger part of our program. He wanted it to be even more. And I think the one thing that we've been complimented for is that we have a head coach who, is known for preparation. And he's known for making sure our kids are prepared, making sure our kids play fundamentally sound. And he wanted to make sure that went back to special teams. So really, for me, it was, what do you want to see and how can I help us get there? And what can the kids do that they're really good at? So that was really, it wasn't, I wasn't going to go in with wholesale changes necessarily. I had some ideas of some things I wanted to see. But as a first year coordinator, I probably tried too much too early. And it was kind of like Icarus, where you fly too close to the sun and your wings melt. And I think that was the one thing I regretted. But during COVID, we just made sure that when we had meetings over Zoom, that we talked special teams as much as we did offense and defense. So we always had a special teams time. So if offense talked on one week, the next week was defense, or the next week was special teams. And that was the whole session. And that way the guys knew it was just as much. And then we did it during July camp as well. So, which was new for us. That was something that we had never done, and we pushed for as a, Coach Weber and I talked and said, we need to get it in early, and we need to start repping special teams at ASAP. And so that helped tremendously. But I tried not to go in with wholesale changes, because essentially it's his program and I need to buy into what he's doing as an assistant. That's my job. So I would just meet with him and say, hey, what do you want to do here? What do you like? And then kind of work from there.
Now, I mean, what did you guys, I mean, obviously we get 10 camp days in Ohio during the summer. This year that kind of got waived. You can do as many as you want. But what does that look like for you guys? Do you guys hit a different special teams every day during those 10 days? Do you have just a block of time and you try to hit what you hit? Is it scheme oriented in July, or is it drill oriented and then get to the scheme in August?
Last year we jumped right into scheme because we were looking at some things. I think this year we'll jump right into just one base look and the fundamentals of it. And really, our goal for this year will be every player will know the fundamentals of these units. So even our offensive line, they need to know how to cover on punt, because if the situation arose that somebody goes down and I need a punt offensive lineman right now, if I turn and grab the nearest guy, he'll know what he's doing. And if it's our 250-pound guard, let him go out and cover on punt. And he will know what he's doing. So this year, July will be, this coming year, July will be, what are the fundamentals of every position? And we do it based on day. So we do, first of all, I think we have two kickers and they both play soccer. So we try to work with them in regards to, if they're going to be there, then we do field goal and kickoff. If they're not going to be there, we may do our kickoff return, our punt block, things like that they're not on. So then we kind of go from there. Usually I think during camp, I don't remember, I think we got about 30 minutes.
Okay. And then kind of going from there, when you guys got the 2 days, what did that look like for you guys? How much time did you have? How did you structure that?
Again, we had about 30 minutes, okay. I think, a practice. So we made sure to cover. Now, I guess Coach Weber does a nice job of making sure that we do punt during team offense, because it transitions our guys from offense to punt back to offense. And it teaches them that transition, and then it makes it to where it's more real. The offense comes up, because, during a game, we don't blow the whistle and stop and go, okay, everybody get water, then we're going to come out and punt. It doesn't work that way. It's offense, punt. And then that helps with our time.
Okay.
We do a drill day. I think we did about 3. We only had maybe a week or two to it. I think we only had about a week or 2 of days this year, it seemed like. So we did a couple of drills, and we started out the gate with special teams this year. This year, special teams started practice. So I don't really have good answers for you right on that, because I don't have the answers right in front of me.
Oh, you're good, Coach. Kind of continue with that. How did you work with your coaches, break that responsibilities up?
I try to just tell them before that practice. That way they weren't having to remember it on top of everything else that we have to remember with COVID, of taking temperatures and everything else that we had to do. So I tried to tell them right before that practice, like, hey, this is what we're going to do today or tomorrow. I tried to text it out even the night before. Hey, tomorrow we're going to do this on special teams. This is what we got going on. When we did drills, so I'm thinking blocking stations, I asked certain coaches to run certain things depending on their unit. So the D-line coach probably needs to have get-offs.
Yeah.
He's good at that. He's good at that.
Yeah.
The outside linebacker coach probably should have coming off the edge. He's good at that. That's what he's good at. The DB coach should probably get the jamming and snagging of the gunners. Again, natural fundamental for the coaches. And then the inside linebacker coach coaches running backs. He can do splitting the bulls and how to get the hand placement, things like that. So we made sure to try to give coaches their comfort zone, because then they were comfortable with, and then we started guys in their position with their position coach to kind of help transition. Hey, this is a defensive unit and a defensive drill. So tried to make it as normal as possible in regards to, you already know this from defense. This is the only difference is now is they're punting. That's it.
Yeah.
So we try not to confuse the kids. I think the more information you try to play into their head, they can't play as loose. And when kids play tight, they don't play the way they want to play.
Okay. And then kind of the last thing with the scheduling aspect of it is, what does your in-season, like Monday through Thursday, look like? Because you talked about Monday. I forget what your exact verbiage was on running through some stuff. So what does your Monday through Thursday look like?
So Monday's a scout tape, scouting report day with the guys, and then Monday's conditioning for us, kind of be in shape. So when we do kickoff, we'll do it against the air through the goal line. The one thing I'll credit Coach Conley and Coach Al Moore at Otterbein did it as well. So I'll give Al a lot of credit for this as well as Bill. You had to run through the goal line. And if you didn't run through the goal line, you did it again. And it didn't matter where the ball landed either. If he could have pooched it 10 yards, you were going to the goal line, because that was the purpose of that drill, was to get you running in your lane as hard as you can to sell out. That was our Monday and what we would do is, if you weren't on kickoff, you were running gassers behind us. So we'd kick off from the 40 going, and then behind us. So they would be running gassers. And if you didn't want to run gassers, then you would call somebody out on the varsity kickoff team that you wanted to compete against and say, I want to come over here and compete for a starting job, or at least to get on the depth chart of special teams. And that was a way to get guys competing and to push each other. And then we would do punt on air lanes just to make sure guys on the line understood their lane protection. And that was something we wanted. That's a fundamental that we wanted to make sure we were working on, because we did not want to get a punt return or a touchdown on us. We got one from Kings Mills, which, I took full responsibility for. So, and I took full responsibility for it, because I don't think I emphasized it hard enough that week to contain that guy.
Yeah.
And not to kick it right at him. So that was my fault.
Oh, I Coach, I could tell you stories of things that I wish would have happened the past 2 years. And it happens. And it best thing we can learn from it as special teams coordinators is to learn from it. And okay, this is why this went wrong. How can I make sure it doesn't happen again? Was it a scheme issue? Was it I didn't emphasize it enough? Should we just not have kicked to that kid because that's a bad life choice? There's Hey, you know what I'm talking. Like, there's some kids that just like,
absolutely.
yeah, I'll take the penalty. Just kick out of bounds. No, we're not. I don't want it within 30 yards of them.
Yeah, and that's that's our Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, what we would do is we would make sure that we would have, usually Tuesday was defense. So let's just say for all intents and purposes, our kicker was there on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So the kickers usually were there about 3 days a week. And the other day they would miss because they had a soccer game. So Tuesday defense, we would make sure to hit punt block. We would hit field goal block. If the team ran muddle huddle, we did that on Tuesday. And then we would also do probably just one more special teams. If the kicker's not there, it would probably be KOR, because I love watching linemen kick for kickoffs, and I love watching one of our coaches can throw the ball very well. And so we let him throw the deep balls and we let the lineman kick the squibs. That was our Tuesday. So on Wednesdays, our kicker would come back. We would kick field goals. We would punt during offensive team. We would do kickoff against opponent. So punt was against the opponent or against what we called Vikings up, which was basically everybody from the sidelines got to try to rush the punt. The training of that mechanism was after Hamilton, and I'll give Coach Varney credit. Coach Varney did a great job with his staff. I don't know who their special teams guy is over there. I think it's Coach Gussler or Coach Parsing, but I don't know. Did an outstanding job. They brought a guy late. They'll line up in a 4-2, and then they'll shift and move really well. And it got our left tackle, and they blocked the punt. So after that, we went versus Vikings up. So we brought everybody. We brought the entire school basically at our punter and at our punt team, and it made our punter be faster. We didn't want him back there baking cookies and hanging out with the ball. We wanted him to get the ball off. So it was our way to get him some pressure. We did the same on field goal. We had a young lady this year go out on 24 hours notice and kick against Cincinnati Anderson. And that was a comment that our holder made to her was, well, it's only 10 guys rushing you instead of 40 guys. So, yeah, right. And which got her to settle down and laugh. So, and then on Thursday, we do everything. And depending on the opponent, there are certain opponents in our league that are notorious for onside kicking, and Coach Holbert at Logan Elm does a really nice job of catching teams off guard and got me my first game as a special teams coordinator, and I promised myself I would never let that happen again. So he got us this year with that, and that was something we learned. We practiced short pooches, surprise onsides, squibs. We practiced hands team. So what we did during the week was really cognizant of what are they going to do to us. Hey, you got the Logan Elm tape of us getting that onside on us. So we're going to practice our hands team during half of our KOR time to make sure that we're not getting that again. And we did that. We came out the next week. That team, one kick, tried to pooch onside it. And the next kick we came out, hands team. So our kids do a great job adjusting.
Good.
So Thursday we do everything though, and we do it in a flow and go of the game kind of thing.
What does your special teams pregame look like?
On Fridays?
Yeah.
We started with walkthrough in the gym, and usually that was attendance and reminders. We would take attendance, we would do some reminders, just to make sure everybody was out there. They know what they were going to, just, hey, don't forget this guy likes to kick it on this yard line, this hash, make sure that, this is coming at us. And then, that was our pre-game. And then we would come out and do specialists, I want to say about 75 minutes early. before kickoff, and we would do punting, snapping, kickoff with our kickers, and then all of those. And usually with our kickoff returners, I would pull them aside and just kind of work on fielding the squib, fielding the pooch, fair catching, putting a foot out of bounds to make sure that the ball is out of bounds by rule, and that way we can get it on the 35, things like that. So we would work on all that stuff just as reminders at the 75-minute mark.
Okay. Do you actually practice, like, you're fielding those, like, onsides or some of those kick returns with their feet out of bounds so they get the penalty?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I never see. This is where I generally just learned something. Like, oh, I never thought to do that. That is.
Yeah. So but I didn't do as good of a job with it because Logan kicked it out of bounds, and our guy's foot was about that far off. He claimed it was out of bounds. His foot was out of bounds, but it wasn't obvious. And so I talked to him afterwards, and I said, hey, look, if you would have moved your foot a whole step over, just put it on the white and then reach over and grab the ball. And that's just preparation and knowing, like, getting the kids to understand the rules of the game and getting the kids to embrace the fact that those are the rules of the game. The rule of the game is if you have a foot out of bounds, the ball's out of bounds. And that's the way it works.
I've never thought to do that. Like, I love that. That is, yeah, that is definitely.
I don't know if that's frowned upon.
That is definitely circle pad on this pad I've been writing on this whole time, and I'm just like, you know what? That's some good stuff right there.
But I think I'll give coaches credit, man. Like I said, Eddie at Logan did a great job, man. He put it right. His kid has a leg. I've watched his kid in pregame. His kicker has a leg, and he's got a good kicker there at Logan. And Coach Eddie did a good job. He put it right. I mean, that kid dropped it right inside, and it died. And I wish our guy would have taken just a little further step. And I told Coach Weber, I said, that's on me. And so now I've got a little cut up, fair catching kickoff returns and making it a better fair catch, fair catching punts and making it a better fair catch signal, and picking up the ball from out of bounds and making it clear. So,
speaking of fair catching punts, one of the banes of my existence, how well did you guys field punts this year?
Not. That was my fault. I didn't do a good enough job with our punt returners this year.
That's been.
I think I emphasized the block so hard that I forgot to emphasize the whole fair catching thing. So we struggled. That was my fault with our guys.
Now, do you think that's because you didn't emphasize it, or that's because high school punting's so dang erratic?
I think I didn't emphasize it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'll give our guys credit that I think we have good kids, and I think had I done a better job, then we would have been okay.
Okay.
But I didn't do a good enough job, and I think, there's no excuse for that, and that's something I definitely told Coach Weber I need to do a better job of. But when it comes to fair catching punts, win the field position battle.
Yeah.
The one thing I look at after every game is I actually look at it now during the game because I've got moved upstairs to the press box the last game, 2 games, was winning the field position battle. And you got to win the DSA. In high school football, you got to win DSA. And so that was one thing I really kept looking at was we've got to at least fair catch the punt. If we're going to go after blocks and we're going to be aggressive, that's fine. We're not going to have much of a return, and we got to swallow that and just fair catch it. And so that's something we're going to work on this off season is how we're going to make sure guys are fielding punts and make sure they're doing a really good job with that.
Now with our rule about we can 7 men, whatever the hell it is now, I can't ever keep track of how many men we're allowed to hold after and actually do drill work. How much do you plan on doing this spring with your kids, special teams wise, before June, assuming we can with all the weird COVID stuff?
I'll try to do every day. I'll try to get 2 or 3 guys just privately with me outside doing something. I think the one thing is we got to get kids to have fun with it, to make it a competition to really enjoy it, because every kid wants to go out and run go routes. I also coach the wide receivers, and I made this comment to he's going to be a junior next year. He's a kid I had in class last year as a freshman, and he and I have a really good relationship. And I pulled him aside and I said, our 60-year-old chemistry teacher can run a go route. It doesn't require footwork. Can you run a well-timed, well-executed whip route?
Yeah.
Comeback. Can you do that? That's what you need to work on. You need to work on those routes. You need to work on fielding a punt. You need to work on fielding a kickoff. And you need to work on fielding a squib and a pooch and fielding a one hop off the ground, and, moving away from the ball and trying to fair catch signal it and let the ball bounce into the end zone, and working all those finite details to make you a great football player. Everybody can run a post. I can run a go route. Now, it won't be very fast, but I can run one. It'll be the slowest go route you've ever seen out of a wide receiver coach, but I guarantee you I can run a go route.
That's great, Coach. I love that. And I'll bet you mine's slower with my rebuilt knee. Since we're both I'm still a receivers coach. I haven't been reassigned yet. So it seems like I coach something different every year. So, but yeah, I mean, I mean, we're getting into our off seasons now. What do you want your off season to look like in terms of preparing for next year?
Well, I want to make sure that our kickers are kicking and getting better, obviously. I think that's the most lethargic answer I could have given there, was we have 2 kickers who are both outstanding kickers, and to get them kicking and to get them on the turf field as much as we can and get them out there, to get our snapper to continue to grow. And I think Cincinnati Anderson did the best job. They exploited some things with him. So working on his technique of getting down the field and how that's going to look for him. And we want to work on getting some competition going with these guys. We want them to take pride in being a returner, take pride in, running down on kickoff, and start teaching them the fundamentals. So really during, anytime we can get them out on the field, that's what my goal is this off season, is to get them on the field. I'm also the bowling coach, so it's really hard for me, obviously. But even if I get them out there on the field at 5:30 in the morning in the dark and I turn on a flashlight, at least we're out there getting better. I don't know how that would go over in the cold, but, I don't mind it. So that's our goal, is to get them to be better football players and to continue. One thing for me off the field wise, I need to do a better job of is building a relationship with a lot of these guys that I don't know yet. Because I just come back this year, and so I didn't know some of them. So that'll help getting to know some of those guys and getting them out there with me, and really just building that relationship with them the best I can. So that's kind of my goal, is just to work on the finite details and work on fundamentals. Schemes will come, but just working on fundamentals first.
Okay. No, I get that. That was one of the things I was doing very heavily before COVID. I was getting snappers in the morning, at least snapping, get some stuff in, do some drill work with them. Because I'd get a crew of them lift in the morning. So we'd lift, we'd do some snapping drills, have fun with it. But yeah, no, I get you, Coach. And you talked about looking at every 2-point muddle swinging gate humanly possible. Is there anything else that you deep dive into special teams wise that might be a little nerdy? That might be a little. I mean, cause let's be honest, us special teams guys, we're the outcasts of the coaches. The offensive coaches will break down the RPOs and have all the LSU tape, and we're sitting over here with 20. I just showed you 2014 Yale swinging gate film. That is just.
And I was all about it. Yeah. I love that stuff. Yeah, man. So the one thing I'm working on is I'm going to buy the NFL All 22, and I want to watch every punt that the NFL punts, and I want to watch all the kickoffs of the NFL, probably more the punts and PATs than kickoff, because the new kickoff rules in high school don't apply to the new kickoff rules in the NFL don't really apply to us. And the reason is how they identify, how they snap, the finite details of how are their gunners lining up. And not because we have NFL style guys at Teays Valley, but because I'm always trying to learn something. And I'm sure there's going to be a team from the MSL watching this video at some point, and maybe they'll hear this. I had a cut up made of every team we play against the last 6 years of their special teams. Every clip that I have on Huddle the last 6 years. And I'll watch it, and I'll sit there and break it down. And I have another coach who's on our staff who's a great guy, a great friend of mine, and he and I will just it's like Christmas every day that he and I talk about special teams. And we would watch every clip, and we're just watching because we're trying to get better and we're trying to prepare our kids. If that coach has been there for 3 years, then I'm watching every single kick that coach has had against Teays Valley or that we had on scout tape for the last 3 years. And so I love watching that stuff. Personally, I watch a lot of fakes too to see. And the reason is not because I'm trying to get cute and draw it in the sand. I want to see what they saw to run that fake. So that way that doesn't happen to me as a coach to our kids, because the last thing I want is our kids to not be prepared and then them get a fake on them. Because that 100% falls on me, is to prepare them to not let that happen. So I'll watch fakes. I'll watch muddle huddles. I'll watch everything.
Yeah.
And I do encourage new special teams coordinators to really dive deep into your teams that you play against, because essentially we're doing this for the kids. And the more that we know about another team, the better. And to be transparent, it also helps build relationships and builds credibility. For new coaches, credibility, the thing is high school players, you have to earn their credibility. You have to earn their respect. And we played a game that week we practiced a fake punt that we had seen that team run 3 years ago in a scout tape. And I made sure that Coach Caudle and I and Coach Weber made sure we repped it. And our guys took pride in the fact that when they actually broke the huddle to line up in that look, and it was the only time they ever lined up in that look, as soon as they did it, our guys were barking it out on the sidelines. I didn't have to say anything. No, I was, because I was overly enthusiastic on the sidelines. Like, there it is, there it is, there it is. And but it was great. And so that's what I like to do in the off season. I just love watching football in general. So anything I can do to learn, I'm all about it.
Okay. And then last thing I got for you, because I know you got a meeting you got to go to after this. And I know we're getting close on that. And I want to make sure I have enough time to save this, make sure everything saves well, and chit-chat a couple minutes afterwards. What's the biggest lesson or lessons you learned from your first year back and coaching special teams at Teays Valley?
A lot of things. I think one of the biggest things I learned was that don't get too ambitious. Really, I think the one thing is to be transparent. Originally, I wanted to line up in a different punt look every time we punted. The problem with that is the fundamentals get overlooked, and then you're confusing your players. And so, and again, we're doing this for the kids, not for us and our egos. And so did having too many looks put our kids in a bad position? Probably. So it was one thing that I learned was, let's slow down and get back to the drawing board and, how to, and focus on finite details of what is my job and focusing on the details more and more. And that's something that Coach Conley taught me, was don't leave any stone unturned, and to make sure that all those finite details get covered. So that was something I really learned this year. The other thing, like I said earlier, was having a special teams captain was probably the smartest thing that we did this year as a team. Was we identified a guy who that was going to be our guy, and he was going to be our guy on every special teams. And he was a senior this year, and he was going to line up our punt. He was going to make sure we identified right. He was going to make sure that all those things. So those are some things I learned this year, and just to appreciate it, because, you know, when I was first going into this, I think I was a little bit egotistical, and I think I was out for myself more than I should have been. And I think taking 2 years away to get married and to settle down a little bit and to start teaching at a great school, it made me personally appreciate our kids even more. And to come back, I just told them every week, like, I just appreciate the opportunity to coach you. I just appreciate the opportunity to be out here with you. And so those are some things I learned that maybe some coaches don't learn as fast, is they're still chasing the title. I want to be a head football coach. Yeah, but you know what? If you have great kids and a great teaching job, there's nothing more important than that. You know, the teaching's what pays the bills and puts food on the table. And if you love your teaching job, then that's all. Because you love your kids, that's all that matters. You know, and so it doesn't matter what they make me do. So those are some things I learned this year that hopefully I can rub off on some younger coaches that listen, is embrace where you are. Just have your head where your feet are and enjoy that, and be all in your head coach. Even if you don't agree with him, just be all into him, because at the end of the day, it's his program. It's his way. And so you got to be all in to help him out. If he goes down, you're going down too. You know, that's the thing. People don't realize that. People were like, well, you know, you know what? You're there for a reason. You know, coach those kids you coach and love those kids you coach. So I'm super excited to keep coming back to Teays. Teays is a great place and great kids. So.
Well, Coach, I appreciate it. Anybody that wants to get a hold of Coach, his contact information will be in the bio of this video, or if you're listening at it on a podcast site, it'll be in the description. That way, if anybody, I'll put his Twitter handle in there. And then, do you want your email in there too, Coach?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
so I'll have his Twitter handle and his email in there for anybody that wants to get a hold of him. Don't hesitate to reach out. Me and Coach have been messaging back and forth for a couple weeks after I tried to schedule him midway through the year when we were desperate for a team. Like, oh, do you have an opening? Do you have an opening? Do you have an opening? It's like, I think me, my head coach, and my athletic director messaged probably about 40 schools that night after we got canceled on. So, yeah. So, hey, we've all been there. So, but this was the first episode of the Kick and Cover podcast. I thank everybody for listening, and we will be back with another guest here soon. Thank you.